Hey everyone, I'm Dark Souls GUIX, your video game realist. It's been 5 years since we've launched PlayStation 5 and Series X. We've had a lot of time to think about it. We've had a lot of hardware and games launched over the last 5 years and a lot of new useful tools and updates. And of course I'd like to talk about some of those things right now. So, did we do a good job of launching PlayStation 5 and Series X this generation? Abso-fucking-lutely that we did. It took at least a year or two for most of the features to come online with both of these consoles, but they have sold, I think, somewhat reasonably well despite the pandemic. But despite all that, though, there are still people that think, oh, hey, Xbox is dead, what's the point of owning a PlayStation console, should I just stick with PC, yada yada yada. Now, don't get me wrong, back in 2020, PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X were very powerfully matched. And I knew over time that PlayStation 5 Pro would come and PlayStation would outperform Xbox in terms of console sales. It was totally predictable because PlayStation's the ideal console for the best price, and I said that at the very beginning of the generation, in case you missed it. But ideally, with the next generation of consoles, you're not really going to see like a massive performance jump either. Yes, it has been confirmed that both these consoles will feature 16GB of GDDR7 memory, but again, they're only going to be able to output 4K at 60 with ray tracing in 2560 by 1440. Nvidia might have finally cracked ray tracing at 4K 60, but at this point in time, it seems very unlikely. Like, 4K at 60 with games is still the most requested by people, and everyone seems to have settled on that, including developers across the actual board. And I know this because I've spoken to quite a few of them over the years. They're pretty happy with 4K at 60. It's not like it's going anywhere anytime soon. So the main big innovation of the next generation will be artificial intelligence, which, may I say, is good or bad depending on what your views actually are. When it comes to playing video games, I don't think anyone will really give a fuck at this stage, as long as they can just put down their console and just play a game at the end of the day. They're not going to really care. Same as we're not really going to care if games go all digital either and they go away from physical media, because the point is games are getting too big to ship on physical media now as well, which I believe, and most people nowadays have a decent internet connection that's above 50 megabits per second now, especially with the 5th generation cellular data, which we also sort of knew that was going to happen. Regardless though, the next generation consoles will be significantly powerful than its predecessor. It has to be. So they're going to have brand new AMD chips that are going to be extremely powerful and brand new GPUs that are going to be powerful. But they'll do a better job at running games at 4K, so you don't have to choose between performance and fidelity. PlayStation 5 Pro already did this, so don't be surprised too if they just stick with the PlayStation 5 Pro, or with the PlayStation 6, just make it equivalently as powerful as the PlayStation 5 Pro, with very minimal difference. There's not gonna be a massive jump. What the largest technological leap jump will be is artificial intelligence, and they'll be able to use AI for their open world games, which everybody will love. Means the NPCs will react in real time and all that shit. But we're not going to get into that today. 5 years on, I think they did a really good job. I think they did a great job of launching PlayStation 5 and Series X in 2020. I think they also did a great job as well with PlayStation and launching their VR system and all of their accessories as well. Xbox also did a really great job of the rollout of their official headsets with Dolby Atmos and all of their tech as well. So both consoles really did very, very well here, especially with the expandable storage. That was such a massive request from people. Same with the solid state drives built into the consoles. I think everybody can come out and say that games do run significantly better on this generation's consoles compared to the last, which had traditional hard drives more than they did SSDs. It has made games in 4K run significantly better. With PlayStation 4 Pro and Xbox One X, when they did the jump to 4K early, the hard drives themselves were not prepared. Yes, games could run at 4K really, really well, but the only problem was they were limited by the speed of the hard drive. The SSD really boosted the performance of 4K in quite a massive way and developed a revolutionary change I don't think anybody expected, not even myself. It was a significant step up. Also, not a lot of games supported 120 frames per second, as much as they advertised that out of the box. A lot of developers still chose 4K at 60 because it seemed to be the happy medium that everybody liked. Same with the Seagate card that plugged into the back of Xbox Series X, which was a massive feature, and the M.2 SSD expandable slot on the PlayStation 5. See, everybody was happy with that as well. Same as how you could plug in traditional hard drives, and you were able to store the games on there, but not play them off the hard drive itself. That was a big request of people right at the beginning as well. And they've added so many features since then, such as being able to stream to mobile devices, stream to PCs, and remote connect to this, remote connect to that. There has been a mammoth amount of post support for these two consoles since 2020. And they've done such a significant job in building their hardware. They designed these consoles to last 7 years, and they have successfully lasted about 5 years. If you're still a Series X owner or a traditional PlayStation 5 owner, trust me, if you've got your machine going and it's been this long and it's still working perfectly fine, you have done very well. It proves to me that those consoles were built to last the entire generation. So if you've kept your console that long, then you've only needed to buy one console for the entire generation. That's really fucking saved you money, big time. In terms of how many games I've played on PlayStation 5 and Series X professionally over the last 5 years, 70 games in total, including 20 current generation titles on each and 15 backwards compatibility titles on each of the PlayStation 5 and Series X machines. And I can officially say on paper that these games have run significantly well in 4K at 60 as well, with surprisingly very little issues. There were a couple of games that had a bit of a rocky start, but after a couple of post-launch updates, they really got them optimized extremely well. Right now would be a really good time to get into these two machines if you're just starting out as well, because all those games are polished and perfected and all the hardware is out now. So if you're at a time where you're shopping for new hardware in the new Christmas season, this would be a very good time to go shopping for hardware. They've got a lot of stuff out there as well. But not every video game console is perfect. Surprisingly, there are quite a few things that they could have done a lot better in my opinion. Number one is, with PlayStation, they could have had a lot more better support in terms of PC monitors, because I tried to get it running on one of the monitors that I own and it wouldn't display properly, but it would only work on my TV. They could have done a lot better job here if they had made it backwards compatible with HDMI 2.0, because I had it working at the very start of the generation, and then a couple of updates in, it just broke and went to fucking hell so badly. I tried this method quite a few times and I still couldn't get it to work in my opinion, but Xbox Series X on the other hand could perform it perfectly fine because it had AMD FreeSync right off the bat. If PlayStation had AMD FreeSync built into their console, they would have done a lot better job here, so that was one of the dislikes that I had. The second dislike that I had is the fucking pandemic, dude, and that massive nightmare of a fucking pre-order scenario that we had very early into the generation. That was the stupidest fucking thing I ever heard of. Man, we must not ever let that happen again next generation. For the love of God, please control yourselves with that one. That was an absolute fucking disaster. Number 3, they also could have done a lot better in terms of the accessibility and the battery power inside the PlayStation 5 DualSense. They could have done a much bigger battery. Like Series X's controllers, they could have had like a 30-hour battery life in their controllers, but they didn't. I don't understand the reasons behind that with PlayStation, but They could have had a lot better battery life there, because we could have used it. It was a gigantic pain in the ass to have to plug in your controller every 4 or 5 hours to charge the fucking thing when you're in the middle of a game. It's a pain in the ass. It really is. Other than that, the hardwares and the games themselves are rock solid now. So at some point in another video, I will sit down and explain to you guys exactly what I'm doing in terms of the next generation of hardware. Have no idea what I'm even doing with this yet because it's still 2 years ago, but when I figure it out, I will post a video explaining this in quite a significant detail, and I'll also explain the direction of the 2 new YouTube channels with the new hardware in the near distant future.